For 50 years, the far side of the moon remained a silent enigma, a landscape we could see with our instruments, but never touch. Now, that silence is broken. A new mission has returned something priceless, the first ever physical samples from the moon's hidden half. What secrets do these ancient rocks hold? What can they reveal about the moon's true origin and the two sides that evolved so differently? The first ever physical evidence is here, and it will rewrite our understanding of the moon. The far side of the moon is not just hard to reach, it sits forever out of Earth's direct view. The far side is the hemisphere that never faces us, while the near side is the one we always see. Because the moon itself blocks the signal, landers there cannot maintain direct radio contact with Earth. That barrier alone kept Apollo crews and their controllers from even attempting it. In this video, we will explain tidal locking, the radio blackout, how China broke through with a relay satellite and Chang'e-4, and why Chang'e-6's returned rocks matter now. After 50 years of waiting, China has not only landed a rover on this hidden terrain, but is now returning pieces of it to Earth. The question is, why did the other half of our nearest neighbour stay unreachable for so long in the first place? Why we couldn't reach the hidden half. The story begins with how the moon moves in step with Earth. The moon is locked into a rhythm called tidal locking, meaning it spins once on its axis during the same time it takes to orbit Earth, so the same face always faces us. If you track the moon night after night, you will always see the same surface features. The far side never turns into sight, and that single fact dictated how science and exploration unfolded in the early space age. On its own, that might not sound like a real limitation. In principle, a lander could target any point on the moon. The challenge is that the half we cannot see also cannot communicate. Spacecraft rely on radio signals for commands and data transfer. On the near side, the path is open and straightforward. On the far side, the moon itself acts as a shield, cutting off all direct line-of-sight signals. Any lander touching down there would go instantly silent to Earth, unable to report status or receive instructions. Without a backup system, it would be as if the lander never existed. That silence was a decisive factor during the Apollo era. Astronauts who orbited the moon in the late 1960s and early 1970s experienced it firsthand. When their capsules slipped behind the lunar horizon, contact with Houston disappeared. Each loss of signal lasted about 40 minutes until the craft re-emerged on the other side. These communication blackouts were temporary, but they underscored why a landing on the far side was out of the question. Apollo missions depended on near-continuous communication for life support monitoring, guidance, and rapid coordination. The technology to let a spacecraft navigate and land safely without that live back and forth simply did not exist. On top of the communication gap, the two hemispheres of the moon differ in terrain in ways that mattered for safety. The near side, where Apollo landings took place, contains wide volcanic plains called Maria, the large, dark fields that spread across familiar lunar views. These regions were relatively flat and open, which gave engineers confidence in plotting controlled landings. The far side offered none of that simplicity. It is dominated by craters stacked upon craters and the uplifted highlands between them, creating steep slopes and unpredictable ground. In practical terms, it meant there were no large, forgiving landing zones. The combination of hazardous surface and total radio blackout closed off the far side to Apollo planning. You might think of it as the equivalent of trying to set up camp in rough mountains with no radio or phone signal at all. It was not just inconvenient, it was unsafe. Mission success and astronaut survival depended on careful monitoring in real time. At that stage in history, there was simply no margin to take that level of risk. Scientists never lost interest in what the hidden side might reveal. Its craters and highlands preserve an older record of impacts, while its lack of Maria points to a different geological history than the near side. Those differences promised answers to long-standing questions about lunar formation and the evolution of Earth's companion. Yet despite that importance, the obstacles, communication failure, lack of safe terrain, and limited technology kept exploration confined to one face of the moon for more than 50 years. For all that time, the far side was like an unsolved problem waiting for a tool that did not exist. The silence was the central barrier. Until someone found a way to talk to a lander Earth could never see, its surface would remain out of reach. The breakthrough, a satellite beyond the moon. The turning point came not from a new rocket or lander design, but from a way to create a permanent communication path out of the shadow of the Moon. When China prepared its Chang'e-5 mission, it became clear that a dedicated relay system had to be in place before any landing attempt could succeed. That system was Queqiao, a satellite positioned in a special orbit beyond the Moon, so that it could keep both Earth and the lunar far side in constant view. Rather than circling close to the Moon, Queqiao was guided into a halo orbit around the Earth-Moon, L2 point, about 65,000 kilometers behind the Moon. In plain language, a halo orbit is a looping path made stable by the balance of Earth's and the Moon's gravity. This path lets the satellite hover in a region where it can maintain line of sight with both Earth and the lunar far side at the same time. Engineers had considered this kind of relay during the Apollo years, but at the time, the required navigation and station keeping were too difficult to manage. By the 2010s, improvements in spacecraft control and long-duration operations made it practical. The function is straightforward once Queqiao is in position. The lander on the surface transmits its signals up to the relay, which then passes them onto Earth. In the other direction, commands from Earth are sent to Queqiao and then forwarded down to the far side. The path is slightly longer than direct communication with a near-side lander, so there is a communication delay of only a few seconds. Compared to total silence, the difference is transformative. A simple analogy helps. Imagine two people with walkie-talkies in a building. If one walks around a corner, the wall blocks the signal. If a third person climbs a staircase and stands where they can see both, they can relay messages between them. Queqiao fills that role, always on the staircase, never out of view from either side, and able to keep the conversation going without interruption. In operation, this required precise navigation and regular small engine adjustments. But once active, it solved the decades-long blackout problem completely. With Queqiao in place, China attempted something no other nation had tried. In January 2019, the Chang'e-4 lander touched down in the von Karman crater, inside the huge South Pole Aitken Basin, while Queqiao relayed every signal. The rover U2 too rolled onto the surface soon after and began exploring. For the first time, real-time operations were carried out on the far side, with engineers able to monitor, command, and receive science data as smoothly as if the landing had happened on the near side. That single success marked the end of an era when the far side was out of reach. Chang'e-4 and U2-2 proved that not only could a spacecraft land there safely, but it could also be operated over the long term with a stable communication system. Queqiao made what had long seemed impractical into a working reality. Once managers and scientists saw that continuous far-side operations were possible, the next challenge naturally presented itself. If we could explore and control rovers with the same confidence as on the near side, then the opportunity arose to gather direct samples of that unexplored ground. From that point forward, the idea of returning material from the Moon's hidden hemisphere shifted from a remote ambition to an achievable goal. That leap set the stage for the Chang'e-6 mission, the first attempt to bring fragments of the far side back to Earth. Holding the far side in our hands. For the first time, material gathered from the far side of the Moon is on its way back to Earth. These samples, sealed safely inside return containers, represent the only physical pieces of a landscape we have otherwise known only through telescope images and orbiter data. The straightforward question is also the most profound. What exactly do these fragments hold? And what can they reveal about the Moon's history? The spacecraft tasked with this work is Chang'e-6. Its overall design follows the same basic structure as earlier Chinese landers, but the mission demanded far more. Instead of just operating ground instruments or cameras, Chang'e-6 had to collect and preserve rock and soil, secure them in modules, and launch those modules away from the Moon for transfer back to Earth. Each step carried risk. The far side's rugged terrain made precision landing difficult. Sample collection required drilling and scooping equipment that could operate reliably in dusty, uneven conditions. And the return stage had to fire at exactly the right time, because missing its launch window meant no second attempt. The site chosen was the Apollo Basin, a large crater contained within the South Pole Aitken, SPA Basin. The SPA region is scientifically significant because it is one of the largest and oldest impact structures in the solar system, stretching more than 2,000 kilometers across and plunging deep into the lunar surface. Scientists view it as a window into earlier geological layers, possibly even bringing mantle or deep crust material closer to the surface when it first formed. Within this region, the Apollo Basin's smoother floor reduced landing hazards while still preserving access to scientifically valuable ground. This balance of safety and discovery made it a compelling target. Once the samples arrive, analysts will begin with straightforward questions about what the rock is. They will classify types: volcanic basalts, crustal material from the original surface, or breccias formed by repeated impacts. Texture, mineral structure, and chemical composition all matter here, because each provides context for how the surface evolved. The next step is what the rock tells us. That means determining ages and histories. Using radioisotope dating, for example uranium lid methods, scientists can set absolute timelines for when certain rocks formed or were last melted. This anchors far-side material within the broader chronology already built from Apollo and Chang'e-5 near-side samples. Beyond age, researchers look at isotopic and elemental fingerprints. Ratios of oxygen, titanium, and other trace elements differ depending on a rock's origin. Close comparison between near-side and far-side samples can test the long-standing consensus that the two hemispheres developed differently. The near side shows widespread volcanic plains, while the far side remained dominated by highlands and thick crust. If isotope ratios or chemical signatures diverge sharply, it would suggest the two sides tapped into distinct internal reservoirs, pointing to uneven heat flow or compositional differences inside the Moon. Another important technique is paleomagnetism, which studies faint traces of ancient magnetic fields preserved in cooling rock. If far-side samples show these signals, then the Moon once generated a stronger magnetic field through an internal dynamo. That would reshape ideas about the Moon's thermal and core history. The most ambitious scientific hope remains the possibility, still a hypothesis, that fragments from the mantle are included in the collection. Because the SPA Basin excavation reached exceptional depth, it is one of the few locations where material from below the lunar crust might be present. This possibility is central to why the site attracted such interest. Even a single confirmed mantle fragment would offer a rare direct sample of the Moon's inner composition. All of these strands, rock type, age, isotopic fingerprint, magnetic history, and potential mantle exposure, connect to a shared goal: understanding why the Moon's two halves evolved so differently. Did variations in crust thickness explain the absence of Maria on the far side? Did radioactive elements concentrate unevenly, producing more volcanic activity on one side? Or did random impacts at early times set each hemisphere on separate paths? Having far-side material in hand means scientists no longer have to rely solely on remote sensing or surface images to test these ideas. The broader picture is that these samples will finally make the lunar record more complete. Apollo gave us 6 sets of samples from the near side, and Chang'e-5 returned newer material from another near-side location. Chang'e-6 adds the missing half, allowing direct side-by-side comparison of two contrasting landscapes. In plain language, scientists now have both pieces of the puzzle, not just one. But these new rocks will only reshape our understanding if the measurements are reliable. Before scientists can draw bold conclusions, every result must pass careful verification. That effort begins not on the Moon, but in specialized laboratories on Earth, where the challenge shifts from collection to interpretation. Testing the evidence in Earth's laboratories. How do scientists make sure the new lunar samples reveal real evidence and not misleading signals? The answer lies in a careful chain of laboratory procedures designed to protect the material and verify every result. From the moment the containers are opened, technicians work under tightly controlled conditions. Samples are handled with gloves inside sealed cabinets, and the air or moisture inside is removed because modern instruments can detect tiny contaminations that would change isotope or volatile measurements. What looks like ordinary dust or pebbles must be treated with extraordinary caution to preserve information that has survived billions of years. The first step is straightforward description. Researchers examine grain size, color, and surface texture under microscopes to sort the building blocks of each rock. Specific minerals give clues to the pressures and temperatures under which the rock formed. A feldspar-rich fragment suggests one origin, while a piece dominated by pyroxene points to another. Yet these first observations do not capture the complete story. To test hypotheses about the rock's actual history, labs move to specialized instruments that measure composition, age, and structure at much finer scales. Cross-checking is the foundation of trustworthy results. Multiple laboratories receive portions of the same sample, and each runs independent analyses. For example, 2 independent mass spectrometer labs measuring uranium-lead ratios should give matching ages before any headline claim is made. If different equipment at different facilities converges on the same number, confidence in the result rises sharply. If results diverge, the disagreement must be resolved before publication. This process ensures that no single study or instrument determines the story on its own. A wide set of tools contribute to this layered evidence. Scanning electron microscopes display crystal arrangements in high detail. X-ray diffraction reveals precise mineral structures. Mass spectrometers measure isotope ratios of elements such as uranium, strontium, and lead, allowing researchers to calculate when the material last solidified. Some samples are also tested for paleomagnetism, the faint remnant of a magnetic field trapped in mineral grains as they cooled. If recorded signals exist, they tell scientists about the state of the Moon's interior at the time. By combining imaging, mineral identification, isotope dating, and magnetic tests, the evidence is strengthened because each method approaches the same question through a different lens. Comparison with known collections is another crucial step. The new far-side material will be placed directly alongside Apollo samples and Chang'e-5 near-side samples. This allows researchers to check whether the 2 hemispheres truly differ in age, composition, or magnetic history. The consensus view is that the far side kept its thicker crust, while the near side saw more volcanic resurfacing. If isotopes, minerals, or magnetic clues suggest otherwise, then existing models will need adjustment. But such challenges only stand once repeated tests across labs confirm the data. The final safeguard is peer review. Even after multiple labs agree, scientists cannot publish findings freely. Independent reviewers examine the methods, calculations, and interpretations before any article appears. They may ask for more data or point out potential sources of error. This process slows the pace of announcement, but it protects science from rushing unreliable claims. When results do reach the public record, they have already survived technical scrutiny and independent challenge. The outcome of all this effort is reliable knowledge. Confirmed mineral identifications, confirmed isotopic ages, and confirmed magnetic signals provide a stable foundation for rewriting the Moon's history. What once looked like speculation becomes evidence that can guide planning for future missions. And those missions will not just revisit old sites, they will be shaped by what the far side is now beginning to reveal. These tested results point toward broader insights still to come, as the samples begin to refine how we understand the Moon's very origin and the reasons its 2 hemispheres diverged. Conclusion: far-side samples refine the accepted story of how the Moon formed and why its 2 hemispheres diverged. The consensus hypothesis is that the near side's crust thinned and flooded with lava, while the far side's crust stayed thicker and more rugged. With physical evidence now in hand, these ideas can be tested directly rather than assumed. The results will also guide the future. Geological maps from the samples will help Artemis planners and upcoming lunar stations select landing sites rich in science, while the far side's natural radio quiet zone could host telescopes shielded from Earth's interference. For the first time, we can hold far side rocks in our hands, and they will let the Moon's hidden history speak in data, not speculation. If you found this useful, consider liking and subscribing for more careful updates as lab results are published.